that there is, it's not the first time, it came to me in abundance of spirit myself, that, and today listening to everyone here, how many times have we heard the word love? A lot. And I'm here to testify to you that there's power in words. And I asked how many, 150 people here, maybe 200? And if each one of us needed our conversations with people we know, and maybe people we don't know, with, I love you, that there's power in words. And we can see by the response of people who come in contact with that unconditional love that it does have an effect. So use the power that the Lord has given us.
I just want to talk about the first time I met the W's, and would also like to say that the only disability is not having the ability to love like Sarah did. There was no disability there. First time I met Haas, our first date, he told me he was so nervous that he chewed an entire pack of gum on the way to pick me up. And he picked me up, and he had this old truck that had a bench seat, and opened the door for me, and I said, "Thank you, sir," and he said, "Yes, sir." And so he called me sir on our first date, but we managed. This was 3 years ago now. And things started going really great, and I fell in love with him so quickly. So at some point he said, "You need to meet my sister and my mom." Oh gosh, if they're half the amazing person you are, it's going to be a lot of amazing people in one room. So we're in his truck, and I'm sitting right next to him in his bench seat, and I say, "Hey, should I take off my nose ring? I don't know if your mom's a little crash it." And he's like, No, it'll be fine, it'll be fine. And so we get to the restaurant, and the very first thing this lady says to me is, "Oh, your nose is pierced." It's like, I looked at Haas, I was like, "Are you kidding me?" The very first thing Sarah said to me was, "Hi, Sissy." From then on, I was Sissy to Sarah, and she was my Sissy. There is no words that can describe our sadness for these two wonderful women, except for the word love. And I love them, and they loved me, and Janet always told me to take care of Haas, and that's what I'm here to do. So I love you guys.
I'm Jessica, and I was Janet's niece, and I am Sarah's cousin. First, I'm going to start with talking a little bit about Sarah. So, I believe Sarah was truly an angel here on earth. She carries so much love in her heart, and if there are angels on this earth, Sarah was definitely one of them. We will miss her greatly. Janet was always very mysterious aunt to me. She was so independent and strong, and all of my aunts are very strong, independent women. But Janet was just always so independent, and she raised rabbits and ate them, and she could shoot a gun, and she never wore shoes. Janet taught me how to think independently. When we were growing up, my parents instilled in us to be, good kids and always do what they say. And I remember asking Janet one day, "Why don't you wear shoes, Janet?" She said, "Because I don't want to." So she taught me the way of independent thinking. Janet was also very, very loving, and I looked up to Janet in many ways. She did everything for herself, and she did everything for everyone that she knew. She could never, I don't think she ever would ask for help from anyone for herself, but she was there if anyone needed anything. Janet and I had many long, wonderful talks. We had a lot of interests that were the same. I wish I would have had more time with her on her farm to learn from her. A good couple stories before I sit back down. Whenever my great-grandfather Strange, whenever we were young, my great-grandfather Strange would always make molasses at Silver Dollar City during their fall festival. And I remember going down with Janet and my brother and sisters and my grandma. And we were waiting in the line to get in, and we realized kind of how much it was to get in when we got to the front of the line. And Janet said, you know, let's get back in the car. Why don't you guys follow me? And Janet took us to the back parking lot, and she said, I think I know one of the pieces of this fence that's a little loose. Kids, why don't you just like run in right now? So she got us in for free to Silver Dollar City. That was it. She was a lot of fun, and you know, Janet's kind of a lot of like the angel food cake that she takes so much pride in making. You know, not a lot of frills, not a lot of decoration, but so soft and so good on the inside. And I'm really gonna miss Janet and Sarah a lot. And one of the last conversations that I had with your mother, she just told me how proud she was of you and how protective you were of her. And I know that made her feel so special. She loved you so much, and Sarah loved you so much too. And so do we.
Hello, I'm Walter, and Janet was my mom Mary's sister. I'd like to say, Janet, growing up, I grew up in the city, but Harrisonville was not too far away. And it's about 25 years ago when I was in middle school, high school, and Janet made me learn how to butcher every single animal. Every month we'd go to her house and we would eat nothing but rabbits, squirrels, whatever I could go outside and hunt with my 22 and kill. She would teach me how to field dress it and how to cook it to perfection. That was my Aunt Janet. All we did was just eat stuff that normal people not necessarily would eat. My mom would always sit there and cringe, but never ask what we were eating because my mom loved animals. And if it wasn't chicken or pork or beef, she didn't want to know what it was. But yeah, Aunt Janet, she taught me how to survive outside, hunt and field dress everything, and how to take care of the farm. She wanted to take this little city boy that wanted to be, you know, just run around in town on concrete to learn how to survive. So I really appreciated her for that. And Sarah, I left when she was like 3 years old, but I always got a hug from her when I came back to town. So the unconditional love everybody talks about is 100% true in our hearts. Thank you.
Hello, folks. My name is Robert Taylor. I met the Double D's about 10 years ago. John passed away. A year or two after that, Janet called me up and asked me, can you come over here and talk to this boy? Got me in a little trouble, got a little attitude. Over the next few years, the talks became more and more. One day, she says, I don't know what to do with him anymore. I made the comment of, let him move in with us. He's 17, he moved in. The moment I remember the most is I went over to pick him up. Janet came out crying. She thought she was losing her son. You're not losing a son, you gained another family. I got John in the car, walked back up to Janet, gave her a hug, and said, your relationship will be stronger than ever. She made a promise that day. That I would always look after John,
that Hoss will always be in my family. That promise is not going to be broken. Thank you, guys.
Are there others that would like to share?
My name is Bob Davis, and I first met Janet back in 1977 when she was about 22 years old. I knew her grandfather, Red Strange, very, very well. They all went to my church. We all went to the same church. But my most deepest memory of Janet is she used to have to pick up trucks. And she lived on her grandfather's farm, and he raised molasses. Or whether he make molasses, I don't know, let me put it that way. She had a little dog that used to ride around the back of the truck, a Great Dane. She also had another interesting pet. It was over her house one time, my family and I, my son and I, who was about 3 years old at the time, sitting there and we were kind of moving our feet. I said, well, you can put your feet on the coffee table. So we flipped off our shoes and we did that. I'm looking at this coffee table. I said, Janet, this thing looks like a cage. She said, it is. Yeah, really? What'd you keep in it? Well, I used to keep a snake in there. Yeah, what kind? She said, the boa constrictor. I said, the what? She said, yeah, he's still in there. Well, needless to say, my son and I took our feet off the carpet there. And I looked down and sure enough, there was a snake in the house. It was a boa constrictor, I don't know, but it was a big snake. So, what they said about Sarah come by and I said, she had no reason to complain about a little bitty snake. But I lost contact with her for several years, and when I moved up here and started going to Harrisonville, we were talking one day, I met my teacher, No Silva, and man, things just quit. And that was what, 10 years ago? Something like that, about 10, 12 years ago. She's going to be missed. She's going to be missed. And Sarah, what they said about Sarah, I told her she had to answer to me, because her grandfather wasn't here. So I was a surrogate grandfather. You know? And we joked about that. She always did. Always gave a hug and was always glad to see her.
Hi everybody, I'm Tim. I'm John's first son from his first marriage. I remember the day that I met Janet for the first time. I had been in the Army overseas in Germany, and I got out, and I was planning on staying in Germany. I had a girlfriend of my own at the time, and things didn't work out, so I came back home. That was 1993. Dad went up to the airport up here and picked me up. And instead of taking me down to be with my mom and everybody else, I just spent a couple of weeks with him. So I met Janet that day at that little house, and they weren't married yet. They were getting ready for their wedding later in the summer. And so Janet took to me, and she started calling herself Mom Number 2. Now, I had gone through 4 other stepmothers. You know, Janet was Dad's perfect wife, the one that he always deserved to have. And he finally got her, and they did have 20 good years together. But she was the only one of my stepmothers that ever had the audacity to refer to herself as my mom. But she always put the number 2 on it. And every time I get a card or a letter from them, it would be Mom Number 2. And she earned it. And so I was happy for that. Now that week, couple weeks I stayed with them, Janet was looking out for me. She knew that I just had a breakup, and the first thing she did was she set me up to go out on a date with Mary. So, and then I got to meet Vicki, and I got to meet, there she is, and I got to meet Grace. And I'm thinking, this just gets better and better. All these hot blondes my dad's getting in with. This is great. And then she had a friend come up to make her wedding dress, and it was another hot blonde, pulls up in a cherry red Corvette, and I'm like, I don't know how I got so lucky getting into this strange bunch of people. So, that was my first memories of them, and I've fallen in love with I call them my strange ladies. So happy to know all of them. It was very sad when we lost, Nancy and Mary as well. Mary was always very special to me because she took me out and showed me a good time my first Friday night back in the United States. And things just got better from there. My sister, Sarah, was my youngest sister. Now, Dad had me and Lisa and Tara with my mom. He had another wife where I got 2 more sisters out of that. And then Sarah was my last, and then I finally got a brother. So I had all these sisters, and you all know what having nothing but sisters is. But I finally got a brother, and couldn't be prouder of him. He's going to go on and he's going to do the great things that I wish I could have figured out how to do before I got this late in life. So I love you, brother. Love all my strange ladies. I'm so happy that all of you showed up today for this outpouring of love. Thank you much.
Well, I would be Uncle Melvin. It's interesting how I got that name. I was born a long time ago because I'm really old. Being really old has its advantages. I don't have to worry about social distancing. People always give me a lot of space. Now, Sarah, because I didn't really get to know as much as I would like to. But Sarah didn't have any choice. And she wanted me to come down, because I was this may sound a little different, but a professional storyteller. And she wanted me to come and tell stories at where she was going to high school. And I definitely said yes, I would really count that perfectly. I went down there and they had fixed food, obviously, in this class. And the love that I experienced, this sweet young lady, she got to be queen for the day. She already was. That was her Uncle Melvin. That was telling everyone stories. She taught me a lot of things. Yet in this case, she would taught me more how to love. I'm thankful for her. Thankful for Janet Thomas. See, I'm not really supposed to be here. I was supposed to have died in '95, and the cancer didn't take me. 2001, hey, it came back. Surely I'll be gone then, And then in '05. But the neat thing about all this is, and the sad part, I've had a lot of medical issues, and got to do a lot of things. And seeing stories that I've done everywhere, the most special time I ever had doing stories for her. And you could tell she was so proud. What she didn't realize was how proud I was of her, and I'm sure she knew.
Thank you. I think because of time,
I know that Mary and Ross have something to tell. Of course, Steve number 3.
Yeah. My name's Steve Dunning, and I came into this sphere of the Strange family in the early mid-70s and formally in 79, and so I've really been privileged to be a part of this family, and I'm glad to be able to share with you here today in this ceremony of remembrance. And you know, this time when we're all going through our own internal grief and trying to make sense out of mortality and the sense of loss that we have when we lose the people we love. I can think of memorial services I've been in that have, you know, recounted the great achievements of people who've been pillars in the community and so forth. And yet today I'm really reminded that the treasure that we pursue in our lives, you know, the only treasure that matters is treasures of affection. And pleased to have, you know, really appreciate the leadership team that you and your remembrances have brought to me to reinforce the great treasure that was the achievement of Janet and Sarah's lives. And so I'm glad I'm here today to have that. You know, feel the power of that treasure and the richness of that treasure. As I have learned how to wrestle with grief, one of the tools that the romantic notions that I had that helps me with that is the idea that I have the capacity to give the gift of immortality to those who have died before me. And the mechanism there is that, you know, when I'm in a situation and I can think of Janet, I can think of Sarah, I can think of what would they do in this situation if they were here. And if I choose to do that, then it's as if they were there. And there's a kind of an immortality that we have the capacity to give to those we love. And so, you know, I would commit myself now to remember Janet. And the way I'm going to do that is whenever I'm cooking something, and I want to be a little more adventurous in what I'm going to cook, I'm going to think of Janet, and I'm going to think of how she cooked love into everything she made. And Janet would be there with me. And I'm going to think of Sarah, and how, you know, I could relate to Ruth's comment there. You know, Sarah could be, she expressed her love in powerful ways, and you had to brace yourself. And she was just so indiscriminate in the way she was able to love everybody. And so, when I'm going to, you know, find myself in a situation where I feel like maybe this person is a little bit challenging to love, and maybe my capacity to love somebody is all filtered by this wariness, you know, I'm just going to think, well, if Sarah was here, she wouldn't be suffering these limitations, so I'm going to let my guard down a little bit. I'm going to love forcefully, and I'm going to love with respect.
My name is Betty Jones. Janet worked for me. My kids wrote a letter telling everybody how much that Janet meant to me and to my husband. She took care of my husband on and off for 3 years. And after that, I kept Janet coming to my house, doing odd jobs and little things that I didn't want to do. And Saturday and Sunday, before this happened, she would come and work for me. I never had her on weekends, but my daughter was gone and we wanted to surprise her. I moved in with my daughter. Janet helped me do all of that work. But I wanted to tell you a couple of funny stories that just happened. One thing, Sarah was a beautiful, beautiful baby. I held her all the time at church. And Janet said, Sarah wanted, so Janet's working Sarah's working at the place, and she wanted some money. And Janet says, what for? And she says, well, I want to buy some Coke for somebody. So she gave her some money, quite a bit of money. And so she come home, and Janet says, well, how much did you spend? And she says, all of it. All of it? What did you do? Buy? There wasn't that many people at the home. Well, they took a walk to McDonald's, and she just gave money to people that she just met on the street. And at McDonald's, she spent the whole $50, and she gave most of it away. Another story that happened on Sunday. She said, Sarah said, Mom, it's time for you to start dating. And I've been telling Janet that a couple of times. And I said, oh, good. You know, I said, I'm going to sign you up for a makeover. I said, you've got beautiful red hair, and it's naturally curly. She should be wearing her hair a little different. And she says, no. She says, I like my bun. She says, and most of our work after my husband died was visiting. And one day when we're eating, we did a lot of eating. We were talking about our husbands and stuff, and she said, I just don't think I could ever kiss anyone else but John. And I thought that was really, really sweet. I probably spent more time with Janet than any of you. She was at my house 2 to 3 times a week, all the time. And we had a very good relationship. And before she left, she always says, Miss Betty, I love ya. And Miss Janet, I love you too.
My name is Alicia. I met Janet more recent than everybody else did when Sarah began working at Casco. We have a group here from Casco. My son works there. And when Sarah first came, he was her first boyfriend before Daryl. Daryl's been the lasting one, but Bradley was her first. And I'll never forget the phone call that I got one evening from a lady named Janet who said her daughter was dating my son. And she wanted to know what my son was like and was he worthy of her daughter. So we had about a 2-hour phone conversation actually that evening. I found out a lot. We found out we had a lot in common. She gave me quite a bit of encouragement over the last few years. She was an inspiration to me when it came to my son. She was a lot freer with Sarah than I was with mine. I have a lot more fear. But Janet really encouraged me greatly in that way. In fact, Bradley's very first real date without Mom was with Sarah. Now, I took him, but I had to promise to stay in the truck while they went into the movies. It was the hardest thing in the world to do. Janet just kept telling me, they'll be fine, they can do this, and they did. And I also have a husband who is disabled, and she encouraged me greatly with stories of her husband and all the work that she did and how worthwhile it was to work so hard to keep her husband and how much she loved him. And she encouraged me with that. I love mine. I will never give up. But she told me so many stories that just helped with my time and has helped me. I miss her. I'm gonna miss seeing her face. I miss running into them at Walmart. I miss getting the hugs from Sarah and the waves at work when I go pick up Bradley. She was always at the door waving. I've loved hearing everything and finding out that what I learned about Janet has been a lifelong thing. It's encouraging to see that kind of legacy that they have left. And us, I think that you're going to carry that on because that's your personality. You are that way. And I hope to encourage you, and I hope to see you again in the future, and I hope you won't forget us all at Cusco. But we love you all. Thank you.
Oh, there it is. Okay. I actually wrote mine down. This is called, I titled mine, Sarah and the Chocolate Bar. With Janet and John having children later in life and two very close together, they were ready for a break by Sunday. And thus Sarah became our church baby. We had 4 boys, so as soon as Janet and John would come through and have the baby, they would hand Sarah off and say, "Here, she's yours." So we would take her and she would crawl across the 4 boys and Russ and us. And with 4 boys, we had to always have treats and snacks at all times. So Sarah got treats and snacks clear through church. So one Sunday we had a potluck dinner, which Janet would always head up, and it was always really big. But we went down, and I don't know, the conversation started, and she said, "Sarah has never had chocolate." Everybody stared at us. Sarah had chocolate every Sunday, probably for the last 3 years. And so I looked at it, and Janet looked at us and said, "Of course, you spoiled her." And Sarah always knew that she was our church baby. She always knew that she could get chocolate no-bake cookies just by asking. It was her favorite. I have some out there for you. And she claimed that she had her own room at my home, and it was decorated Hello Kitty. She was spoiled. We gladly spoiled her. I will never forget you, church baby. Janet, I know right now John is reaching over and giving you that pat on the knee. I want to end as my forever friends would. I love you.
I also had to write mine down because if I didn't keep to the script, I'd go on and on and on. I titled mine Janet and Junk Food. Janet always cooked homemade, from scratch meals for her family. She used fresh milk and cooked to perfection meat. The homemade aged fruit cakes, rolls and noodles, and barbecue sauce and pickles that she was proud of. Some do not know this, but Janet's barbecue sauce was also enjoyed in Iraq by our son. When Janet and Oz were preschool age, Janet would probably say, my kids have never had junk food, especially pop and chips. We would occasionally take these two kids to the park. On one trip to the park, we asked the kids what they would like to have for snacks while playing. The answer immediately was chips, pop, and candy, and cookies. It so happened I brought my camera that day for this outing to take pictures of the kids playing in the park. After we had the pictures developed, we took the pictures with us to church to show Janet and John. Janet was looking through each picture with a smile on her face. And suddenly she stopped. And she said, I knew it. You guys have been feeding my kids junk food. In the picture on the picnic table was an empty bag of potato chips, a couple of empty cookie bags, and an almost empty bottle of Pepsi. Sarah and Hollis had big smiles on her face, along with cookie and potato chip crumbs. Janet, after seeing the pictures, had a stern look on her face, but hiding a smile, and said, oh, you guys. And I replied, you didn't send an instruction manual with them. And then, as Janet always said, I love you.
And I think Gracie had something to say. Did you know?
Hi, I'm Gracie. It's a little bit late because we had a flat tire. Actually, Janet had called me a month ago and told she was going to die of the coronavirus, but she called it the Corolla. And I started calling it the Corolla. And she said, I don't want you to go to my funeral. They're not going to have them because the churches won't be open. She just had this sixth sense. And, well, I made it. It was late, but I'm here. Janet was my best friend. She called me every day. And 2 weeks before she passed on Saturday night, it was the best Saturday evening I've had. She called, and it was later than she normally called. It was about 7. And we stayed on the phone until 10 o'clock that night. And we laughed, and we told stories of when we were growing up. And she tried to teach me how to drive a clutch in her old truck, and when she lived in Osceola. And we were going downhill and going up. Pull over now. She had been in the clutch after that. But I'm gonna miss her phone calls. If I didn't answer, she'd call back 10 times. So I did. And I love you, Janet. And you're going to be missed, but you embedded so much in so many of us that is going to live on. And I'm going to miss Sarah. Hi, Aunt Gracie. It was always that hot stuff. And I can remember walking down the gravel road when she was little, holding my hand, and she was always happy. I never saw Sarah look happy.